Hello, snuggly friend. Tonight's story is about a teddy bear, quiet and still during the day, but who, once the child falls asleep, wakes up inside their dreams. Tucked in beside a small child named Rosie was a teddy bear named Toby. He didn't talk, he didn't move, at least not while Rosie was awake. But the moment Rosie drifted off to sleep, Toby's stitched eyes twinkled, and he woke up inside her dream. There, Toby was bigger than before, as soft as ever, and full of life. He waited for Rosie each night in the land of quiet stars, a calm, glowing world where trees whispered lullabies and paths were made of clouds. Together, they would ride on the backs of dream turtles, slide down rainbows that hummed with music, and drink warm cups of moonberry tea under glowing lanterns. Toby never rushed her. He always held her hand. And when her dream felt too full or fast, he'd gently say, "Let's slow down." Sometimes, Rosie would dream of being unsure or scared. That's when Toby became even softer, warmer, and braver, wrapping his fuzzy arms around her and making everything feel okay. He remembered every dream, even the ones Rosie forgot when she woke up. And as the sun began to rise and Rosie stirred in bed, Toby would quietly curl back up beside her, going still once more. Just a teddy, just a toy. But inside, he was smiling because he knew tonight we'll dream again. So tonight, when you hug your favorite toy, maybe they'll wake up inside your dreams too. And if they do, don't worry. They already know the way. Good night.
Hello, Starry Snuggler. Tonight's story is about a pair of pajamas that didn't just keep a child warm. They lit up gently in the dark and carried them into the softest dreams. In a little dresser, folded neatly between cozy shirts and socks, lay a pair of very special pajamas. They looked like ordinary sleepwear, dark blue with tiny silver dots. But when the lights turned off and the room grew still, something magical happened. The silver dots began to sparkle. Not like glitter, not like fireflies, but soft, slow flickers like stars sighing in the dark. A child named Juna discovered them one chilly evening. She pulled them on and they felt just right, warm at the toes, soft at the collar, and light as a whisper. As she lay down, her covers tucked around her, the pajamas began to shimmer. And then the stars on her pajamas slowly lifted, floating like glowing dust. Juna felt her body relax, and suddenly she was drifting. The pajamas weren't just clothes, they were a ship, a starship. She sailed through skies made of velvet, past sleepy clouds and blinking planets. Comets waved hello, and shooting stars twirled in slow, dreamy circles. Her ship made no sound, only a faint hum, like a lullaby wrapped in moonlight. Juna didn't steer. The pajamas knew the way. They carried her to places no one else had ever dreamed, gardens of quiet giggles, lakes of shimmering light, and floating beds of cloud-soft pillows. And when her dream was done, the pajamas gently brought her back to bed, just in time for the morning light to peek through the window. The sparkles faded, but Juna always woke up with the feeling that something magical had happened. And each night, when she put on her starry pajamas, she smiled, ready to fly again. Tonight, when you slip into bed, imagine your pajamas glowing quietly, ready to carry you somewhere beautiful. Good night.
Intro. Hello, gentle dream traveler. Tonight's story is about a bed. Not an ordinary one, but a bed that once the world grew quiet, lifted softly into the night sky, carrying its little sleeper wherever dreams were waiting. In a quiet room with a soft nightlight and a sleepy hum in the air, there stood a small bed with 4 cozy corners, a patchwork quilt, and a pillow fluffed just right. It belonged to a boy named Leo. Leo loved his bed, not just because it was warm, but because it could float. Not every night, only the most peaceful ones. On those nights when Leo was calm and his breathing was slow, the bed would gently rise, just an inch at first, then another and another, until the legs no longer touched the floor and the whole bed drifted like a cloud in the middle of the room. The quilt would glow faintly, and the pillow would whisper, "Hold still now, we're going dreamy." Through the window they'd float, silent and safe, up past the rooftops and the treetops, higher than the chimneys, past the birds asleep in their nests. The sky would open like a sleepy sea, and stars would wave slowly as Leo's bed sailed by. He visited floating islands of silence, met sleepy stargazers who only spoke in yawns, and once passed a moon made entirely of soft socks and bedtime stories. The bed always knew when to return. As morning crept over the hills, it would gently glide back down, settling with the faintest sigh on the floor, right where it had started. Leo never told anyone, not because it was a secret, but because he didn't need to. Each night he'd climb in, hug his blanket close, and wait to feel that first gentle lift. So, tonight, when you lie in bed, be very still. Maybe, just maybe, your bed will float too. Good night.
Hello, little listener. Tonight's story is about the moon, not just shining above us, but listening every night for its very favorite lullaby. Every night, the moon rose quietly into the sky. It didn't make a sound. It simply watched the world grow sleepy, windows dimming, stars blinking on,
trees whispering to the wind. But there was something the moon loved more than anything: lullabies. Not loud ones, not fancy ones, just the soft hums that parents sang, the little tunes whispered into tiny ears, the melodies that floated gently up into the sky. The moon listened closely. It had favorites, of course, like the one a mother sang to her baby in a rocking chair by the window, or the soft hum of a father brushing back a child's hair as they closed their eyes. But one night, the moon heard something new. It came from a small village where a girl named Ilara sang quietly to her little brother. She didn't know all the words. Her voice was a bit wobbly, but it was real, warm, true. The moon leaned in closer, casting a soft glow through their window. The lullaby floated upward like a feather in the air. Close your eyes, the stars are near. Sleep will find you, have no fear. The moon sighed. It was the kind of song that felt like a blanket. From that night on, the moon returned to Ilara's window every evening, just in time for her lullaby. Sometimes the stars twinkled along with the rhythm. Sometimes the breeze slowed down to listen. Ilara never noticed, but her brother always fell asleep faster. And the moon? It glowed a little brighter each night, because even though it had heard lullabies for thousands of years, that one, simple and soft, became its very favorite. Tonight, if you sing softly, hum gently, or even whisper to the quiet, the moon might be listening. And it just might smile. Good night. Good evening, peaceful heart. Tonight's story is about a lamp. Not one you turn on with a switch, but one that glowed only when your mind and heart were quiet. In a quiet bedroom with soft blue walls and a window full of stars, there sat a small round lamp on a little table. It didn't have a button. It didn't hum or blink. But when the room was calm, the lamp would glow. The lamp's name was Lumi. It had lived there for many years, watching over the children who came and went. It didn't need batteries. It didn't need to be plugged in. It only needed peace. Lumi didn't glow during loud stories or fast games. It stayed dark during stomping feet or bouncy laughter. But when someone sat quietly, or took a deep breath, or whispered a bedtime wish, Lumi would shine. Not brightly, just enough to make the room feel soft and safe. One evening, a girl named Nora was feeling restless. She tossed and turned. She huffed and puffed. The room stayed dark. She looked at Lumi and said, "Why won't you light up tonight?" Lumi, of course, said nothing. But Nora remembered what her mother once told her. The lamp only glows when your heart slows. So Nora tried something different. She closed her eyes. She breathed in slowly. 1, 2, 3, and out. 1, 2, 3. She thought of quiet things: a floating leaf, a sleeping kitten, a cloud wrapped in a blanket. And just like that, softly, Lumi began to glow. It wasn't magic, it was calm. The soft light filled the room, hugging the shadows and kissing the ceiling. Nora smiled and whispered, "Thank you." She drifted into sleep with the gentle light beside her. From that night on, whenever she felt too wiggly or wild, she would sit still, close her eyes, and wait for Lumi's glow. Not as a reward, but as a reminder. Calm lives inside us, and sometimes it just needs the quiet to shine. So tonight, before sleep comes, try something soft, a deep breath, a quiet thought, a moment of stillness. Who knows? Maybe something inside you will start to glow too. Good night. Hello, cuddly dreamer. Tonight's story is about a teddy bear. Not just soft and sweet, but one who had a secret hobby, collecting tiny raindrops filled with wishes. In a quiet bedroom, sitting on a windowsill, lived a small teddy bear named Pip. He wasn't new. His fur was a little worn, his left ear leaned slightly to the side, and one button eye was shinier than the other. But Pip was loved, and Pip had a secret. Whenever it rained, and the world grew quiet, and the soft tapping of droplets filled the air, Pip would reach out one fuzzy paw and catch the raindrops on the windowsill. Not just any drops, wishing drops. Because every time a raindrop fell from the sky, it brought with it a whisper, a tiny floating wish from someone, somewhere. Pip couldn't speak, but he could listen. Some drops whispered things like, "I wish for a warm hug. I wish I could be brave. I hope my dreams are sweet tonight." And Pip, with his little stitched heart, would keep those drops safe. He didn't store them in a jar. He tucked them into the thread of his chest. One by one, they became part of his fluff. The child who owned Pip, Lena, had no idea. She just knew that rainy nights felt cozier when Pip was near. One evening, during a soft drizzle, Lena hugged Pip tightly and whispering, "I wish I could dream about flying." The raindrops on the window shimmered. Pip's heart warmed. That night, Lena dreamed she was soaring through clouds on wings made of cotton candy. And right beside her, Pip, floating too, holding a little umbrella just for fun. By morning, the rain had stopped. Sunlight peeked through the curtains, and Pip, still sitting quietly on the windowsill, smiled with his shiny button eye. He had caught another wish and kept it safe. So tonight, if it rains outside your window, don't be afraid. Maybe your teddy is listening, and maybe your wish is already tucked inside something soft and small. Good night. Hello, quiet sailor. Tonight's story is about a tiny boat that didn't float on water, but waited patiently by your bed, ready to carry you across the seas of dreams. Every night, when the lights were turned off and the house became still, a little wooden boat sat quietly by the side of the bed. It was no bigger than a shoe, but it wasn't just a toy. It was the dreamboat, made of gentle wood with a sail stitched from soft pillow thread. It waited, not for wind, not for waves, but for one thing only, for a child to close their eyes. You see, this boat didn't sail oceans, it sailed dreams. Each time a sleepy head sank into the pillow, the dreamboat would gently rise, growing just big enough for a sleepy passenger to climb aboard without ever waking up. The boat always knew where to go. Some nights, it sailed through a sea of stars where whales swam slowly through stardust. Other nights, it followed a river of silver light that wound through floating islands made of clouds. It passed glowing jellyfish that whispered good night. It drifted near floating lanterns that hummed lullabies. It never rocked too much. It never lost its way. The dreamboat listened to the dreams and guided them gently, away from worries, away from noise, straight into the calm. And when the sun began to peek over the edge of morning, the boat would float silently back, shrinking, softening, curling back into the space beside the bed, waiting, waiting for the next night, the next dreamer, the next quiet journey. Tonight, as you lay still, listen for the soft creak of a tiny wooden sail. The dreamboat is ready. Close your eyes. Your journey awaits. Good night. Hello, Cozy Toes. Tonight's story is about a special pair of socks, not just warm and fuzzy, but magical, because once you put them on, they carried you straight into dreamland. In the bottom drawer of a little dresser, under folded pajamas and soft shirts, lay a pair of socks. They weren't flashy, not striped or sparkly, just plain blue with tiny white dots near the heels. Dots that glowed faintly in the dark, like little stars. A child named Eli found them one chilly evening when his feet felt extra wiggly and his thoughts just wouldn't slow down. He pulled them on, right foot first, then left. The socks were warm, but not too warm, tight, but not too tight. Perfect. As soon as Eli lay back in bed and pulled the covers up to his chin, something wonderful happened. The socks began to tingle, just a little, as if to his toes. Then, ever so gently, they started to move. Not loudly, not quickly, but slowly, like footsteps made of clouds. Eli's feet didn't leave the bed, but in his dreams he was walking. With each breath, the socks carried him through glowing meadows of whispering grass, across pebble paths that giggled softly underfoot, and up hills that sparkled with nighttime flowers. The socks knew the way. They never tripped. They never rushed. They simply led him deeper and deeper into dreamland. There he met gentle creatures who wore scarves made of stardust. He danced on pillows that floated like boats. He tiptoed across bridges made of music. And when the night grew still and quiet, the socks slowed, curled, and stopped beneath a dream tree that hummed the softest lullaby. By morning, the socks had stopped glowing. They were just socks again, cozy and still. But Eli smiled because his feet remembered the places they had been. And every night after that, when the stars appeared, he reached for those socks. So tonight, if your feet feel extra wiggly, find your softest pair of socks. Maybe they'll walk you gently into a dream of your very own. Good night. Good evening, little dreamer. Tonight's story is about a soft, curious pillow and its quiet journey following the moon across the sky. In a small, quiet bedroom, there lived a pillow named Moona. She was just like any other pillow, fluffy, gentle, and perfectly shaped for sleepy heads. But Moona had one special wish. She wanted to know where the moon went after everyone fell asleep. Each night, the moon would rise, casting soft, silver light across the room. Moona would watch from under the sleepy child's head, feeling the moonlight touch her fabric. It felt like magic. One night, as the child slept deeply and quietly, a gentle breeze slipped through the window, and something strange happened. Moona wiggled. She lifted, just a little, then floated softly into the air. She looked back once, making sure the child was still sleeping peacefully. Then, slowly and silently, she drifted out the window, following the moon. The moon moved gently across the sky, and Moona floated behind it like a sleepy balloon. She passed over rooftops and forests, over quiet lakes and yawning animals. She saw raccoons cuddling under trees, deer resting in tall grass, and owls blinking slowly from branches. Everyone was calm. Everyone was dreaming. As she followed the moon, Moona noticed how it never rushed. It moved with grace, like a lullaby without music. That's when Moona realized something beautiful. The moon wasn't just moving through the sky, it was watching over the whole world, spreading quiet wherever it went. And now, Moona was a part of that quiet, floating gently and carrying stillness with her. Eventually, the moon began to lower toward the horizon. It was time to say goodnight. For real. Moona understood. She turned, floated back across the rooftops, back into the quiet bedroom, and settled softly beneath the child's dreaming head. She didn't need to ask where the moon went anymore. She had followed it, felt it, understood it. Now, she was filled with moonlight of her own. Tonight, rest your head gently on your pillow. It may not float, but it knows the moon's path, and it's ready to carry your dreams there too. Good night. Hello again, sleepy friend. Tonight's story is about a pair of tiny shoes that didn't move during the day, but danced, skipped, and wandered far once dreams began. In a quiet corner of a little room sat a pair of soft shoes. They were not shiny. They weren't new. They had no laces, no lights, no squeaks. But they had something special inside them. Dream steps. You see, these shoes had been worn by many children before, and every time they carried a child through dreams, they remembered. They remembered puddles made of stars, clouds that bounced, and playgrounds built in the sky. Now they belonged to a girl named Mira. Each morning, Mira would slip them on and shuffle around the house. They didn't go fast. They didn't make much noise. they were just shoes. But at night, once Mira climbed into bed, closed her eyes, and drifted off, the shoes woke up. Very quietly, they wiggled their soles, stretched their tiny tongues, and tiptoed to the edge of the bed. And then they lifted into the air, one step, then two, and waited for Mira's dream to begin. In her dream, Mira would find herself walking through gardens that glowed in the dark, where butterflies wore pajamas and trees told bedtime jokes. The shoes always knew where to go. Sometimes they led her over dream bridges that swayed gently over lullaby rivers. Sometimes they took her across soft sand that hummed with sleepy melodies. Sometimes they just walked beside her, step by step, while the stars above blinked in rhythm. Mira never tripped, never got lost, because the shoes remembered every dream they had ever visited. And when the dream was done, and morning light kissed the sky, the shoes quietly returned to the corner, still, soft, silent, waiting for the next adventure. So tonight, if your shoes are resting by your bed, thank them gently. They just might be waiting for your dream to begin. Good night.